You didn't know that she was too young to consent?
I didn't know the consequences.
You didn't know the consequences?
I didn't know the consequences, and it was it was something that I avoided many times, and it just happened one time, and it was a stupid decision.
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a man who did this to the daughter of his girlfriend. Now she was under the age of 16. They say between 14 and 15, and he gets her pregnant, right? So the DA, the judge, they have all the proof in the world that they need. They are holding the royal flush. They cannot lose this case. So what do you think they do? Do they hold him to the fire? Do they prosecute him to the fullest? No, of course they don't do that. No, instead what they do is they sentence him to 20 years. You know, that makes the media headline. That's what our sheeple hear about, the 20-year sentence. But it is a maximum release date of 6 years and 9 months. And now up for parole after serving just about 3 of those years. And add insult to injury, this 6th-time felon, well, he only needs to register for 10 years, because we all know that when that 10-year period is up, he'll be okay. So again, let this sink in, that the prosecution, they were holding the royal flush. They could not lose if this went to jury. They would not. You cannot impregnate an underage person, but yet they still hand out this sweetheart deal. As a matter of fact, he was only given his sentence 11 months and 20 days before this hearing, and here he is, up for parole. Now, will the man who walks in holding the Bible as his proof to why he is now a better person, will this work at his chances at parole? Will the parole board, or will they see through it with this blunderous act of a hearing? Anyways, let's find out.
Victor Rivera, 285140.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Victor Rivera, 285140. He is serving a sentence of 20 years executed suspended after serving 6 years, 9 months, followed by 10 years probation for sexual assault second, victim age 13 to 15, after more than 3 years older. He is to remain on the sex offender registry for 10 years. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of January 28th, 2025. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed the short track sex offender program, voices, and he works as a janitor. Utilizing statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low to moderate range. Mr. Rivera, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
I would like to have a chance to come out and do programs. If I can do programs, see mental health, and also be there for my family, help them, be there for my son. And the most important is eye surgery, to get out and get my eye surgery done, because I'm in a waiting list for surgery. And
Is that it, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what's going to happen here is we've looked at your past, what you've done to bring yourself to this incarceration, what you've done since you've been in, and based upon that and the interview with the parole officer, we have some questions. Then we're going to talk about your case and give you a decision, okay?
Okay.
And we're going to start questions today with board member Zappo Sexton.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rivera.
Hello.
In terms of the offense that's before us today, you did take responsibility for some of it. But I also just wanted to check in with you because your account of what happened is very different than the victim's account. You said you were coming out of the bathroom, she was naked. Her account is that you brought her 3 different times in a car where the offenses took place.
Yes,
Where's the truth in this discussion?
it happened in my house. When I went to the bathroom and I came out, she was naked under the blanket.
So why would she make up an elaborate story about being in your car and going to the beach in Stratford twice and Field Park in Bridgeport once?
It was more story about that she lies a lot of stories that I threatened to kill them, that I had a gun, and it was a lot of stories that her and her mother also was saying the same stories.
Okay, so you're saying though that at one point in time, you had consensual sex with the victim, and from that one time, she became pregnant.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so obviously we now know that that was illegal based on her age.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you talk to me about what you learned in both the short track sex offender program? We'll start there.
There was discussion was when I was a guy in the like a club, and they was drinking. A girl, he made up a girl in the club. They were both drinking. They went to a hotel and they had sex. That's it was under the influence.
But this was a subject matter from the class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What insights did you learn about yourself taking that class in relation to what you did?
Made the wrong decision, and I didn't know the consequences, so I took the fully responsible of what I did.
Okay, and tell me about what was wrong with what you did.
She was on the age.
Anything else?
No.
Well, do you feel that based on the relationship you had with her mother, that maybe you were someone that she considered an adult that she trusted?
Yes.
So you were in a position of trust, and then
I
the
messed
offense
everything
happened.
up. Yeah,
Okay.
I messed everything up.
Okay.
I took full responsible of everything.
Okay. So moving forward, let's talk about your voices class. What did you learn in voices?
Respect all the people's decision and answers.
Who were the victims?
The victims, my ex and her daughter.
Anybody else?
No. There was the one that the victims.
And during the period that you've been at the facility, Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
you've been there for over 3 years at this point. What have you been thinking about in terms of what's going to happen when you come out, in terms of your behavior and the changes that you're going to make?
Not do the same mistake that I did and make it better, and try to get somebody who can I could talk to, like a counselor, and mental health, see a mental health person.
What do you think the benefit is to getting mental health counseling for you?
Really good, because I'm gonna have somebody who I could talk to and express myself.
Okay. And do you feel that you have identified any risks or triggers that you might have in the community? Are you attracted to young girls?
No.
Okay. You have not gotten in trouble while you've been at
Yes, ma'am.
Brooklyn, right?
Yes,
What
ma'am,
else,
yes.
what else have you been doing to keep yourself busy while you're in jail?
I read the Bible and do Bible study.
I want to talk a little bit about your criminal history. You know, you've had some things on your record since you were 17. None
Yes.
of them were sexual in nature.
I have nothing sexual, no, I saw no weapons, no drugs, nothing.
Okay. So in terms of these, I'll call them property crimes, burglaries and trespassing, larcenies. What was going on back then that you did those types of crimes?
Young and dumb and hanging out with my cousin.
Because this is the 5th time you've been incarcerated, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what's the motivation to make sure there's not a 6th time?
Do the right thing.
Because you're 44 now, right?
45.
45. Okay. For your release plan, you talked about going to your mother's
Yes,
or
ma'am.
I think a halfway house might be an option as well, because I'm not sure if your
Yeah.
mother has a Section 8. Have
Yes,
you
ma'am.
looked into that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I'm concerned about your job. You said in one of the reports that you wanted to open up your own business to be a
Yes, ma'am.
mechanic,
Auto mechanic, yes.
which is great. That's a really good goal, but you know, in the meantime, you're going to need to learn to make some money. And opening a business, you have to have a significant amount of money in order to do that. What
Yes.
do you see yourself doing for a job right away?
Go back to my job. I talked to my boss, but he was on vacation. I try to make him to do send a letter to you guys. I don't know if he did it. But my plan is go back to work and do my side jobs as an auto mechanic too.
So the job that you want to go back to, that's in the construction field?
Construction, landscaping, demolition, snow removal. Everything is a lot of everything once.
Okay. All right. And you believe that he will take you back as an employee?
Yes, man. I also have other bosses that I had jobs with them too. Just in case if I don't get one job, I have other jobs.
Okay. Those are all the questions that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Board Member Smith-Palmieri.
So, Mr. Rivera, when you were getting sentenced, you remember being in court for sentencing, and the judge asked you if you wanted to say you were sorry to the victim, why did you say no?
They didn't tell me nothing about that.
I have here, when asked if he wished to say he was sorry, that you said no. It's pretty clear in the transcript.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Because I speak English, but I express myself more in Spanish. I didn't have no translate person. Well, when I pleaded guilty, I talked to my fellow defender, and I took full respect, fully.
Mr. Rivera, why did you get engaged with the victim? Why did you have a relationship with her? Why did you have a sexual relationship with her?
With my ex-girlfriend,
No, with your ex-girlfriend's daughter.
I didn't have no relationship with her. But
She's the
me and her
victim in this
mother,
case.
yes, ma'am. When me and her daughter had, it was a friend with benefits because she had a relationship. She had somebody living with her. She had another person, and she had me.
So I also saw that you learned in treatment that 16 is not old enough to consent. So before you had a sexual relationship with this young victim, you didn't know that she was too young to consent?
I didn't know the consequences.
You didn't know the consequences?
I didn't know the consequences, and it was it was something that I avoided many times, and it just happened one time, and it was a stupid decision.
What did you avoid?
How do you avoid these situations in the future?
Yes.
How? How are you going to avoid it?
To avoid it,
Yes.
that's what I asked somebody who I could talk to, like a counselor and a mental health person,
Okay.
somebody that I could express myself and talk to about any problems.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Rivera, did you have any difficulties understanding the program materials when you were in class?
No, I don't, sort of.
Did you ask questions and ask for help?
I asked questions. I had many questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further? Board members Zappos, Sass.
So I find the offense that we're discussing to be an egregious misuse of judgment. And I'm concerned about the disparity between the account given by Mr. Rivera and the account given within the police report of what happened. But that aside, Mr. Rivera has taken the appropriate and relevant programs. He has been employed within the facility, and he has no discipline reports during this period of incarceration. He is a moderate risk for recidivism, and he rates low to mod on the static 99. His criminal history does not have any sexual offenses within it, which I was taking as a positive coming into today's hearing. He also doesn't have any substance abuse. And there was a period of time of almost 12 years where he was successful in the community without any type of issues. I am struggling today a little bit to hear, responsivity to some of these programs. And I don't know if it's because Mr. Rivera is nervous or if there's other issues at play. He does acknowledge and take some responsibility. He, as I said, participated in the programs. He's motivated to do well in the community, as he's told us. There's been a general identification of him making wrong decisions and needing to do better. And he's identified that he needs somebody to talk to in order to continue to work through some of these behaviors with mental health counseling. He has a release plan that's a little shaky, but he does tell us that he has a promise of employment with a previous employer. I would like to talk about the fact that I'm not sure if the mother is in Section 8 housing, is that a problem?
Sure.
It will really be up to PCS.
Okay, all right, so maybe, okay, so then that was the only thing that, I think I'm open for a conversation.
So I have some similar ambivalence to what was gained from the program.
Mhm.
Even just that first initial sort of description of a story that maybe they talked about or a movie. I'm not really sure what context that was. I'm just doesn't really give us what he gained from the program. Although the summary that which is what we
Right.
have to
Right.
go by, says that he was a participant,
Mhm.
he developed a relapse plan. I kind of go back to, Ms. Zaposasso's outline of his criminal history, and that there's nothing of these types of, nothing sexual in nature on it previously, and that he does have some significant gaps where he is living productively in the community. I question whether there's cognitive issues or it's a language deficit, but I do, with all that said, I do see that Mr. Rivera is a moderate risk. Has support in the community with his mother. He does have children of his own. One being an adult already.
And the thing is that,
No disciplinary.
Right.
rights.
no, right,
There's a protective order in place until 2099. The backstory or the true story will likely come out in intensive treatment in the community. So I know we don't typically retry the case or
Right.
we are looking for certain factors in terms of offender change.
Right.
I think we do see some offender change.
I think we do. I'm in a suitability and public safety risk. I don't see it. That he is a risk at this point, but I'm concerned about that I can't hang my decision on evidence of offender change through programming, because I think he's just struggling a little bit to talk to us.
there's a piece of that that's done inside.
Mhm.
And then there's even a more extensive piece done on the outside. And, we're dealing with, I don't know. I'm with you when I don't hear a lot of offender change, or even maybe a moderate amount of offender change, but it's where else are we going to have programming that will continue to move him forward? He's over halfway done with his sentence,
Mhm.
but it goes for another 2 years, 3 years. I mean, if I'm looking at suitability, do I believe that he's going to go into the community and commit an offense of this type again? And I don't believe that's the case based upon his criminal history not containing anything that remotely even looks like that. It's like you said, they're all property crimes. There's nothing here that's assaultive. There's nothing here that's domestic in nature or anything like that. I just don't. I hear you. I hear the reluctance, but in terms of,
I think we've heard acknowledgement of consent, and it's in the summary that he's learned the process.
Right.
Developed a relapse plan, which he articulated today, that included mental health treatment. Staying away from the victim.
where
I'm at a grant.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, again, and it's buoyed by the fact that there is 10 years of probation in addition to what would happen today, and then the registry, where there'll be some accountability. So I have no contact with victim SC.
Yep.
Halfway house placement if necessary.
Yep.
problem sexual I had evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary. No contact with minors. And I had a question mark next to the mental health evaluation, but if that's what he's seeking independently.
So as we learned, as we learned in training with this, when we're dealing with problem sexual behavior, if there's a mental health piece that's missing here, they're going to seek that out, right?
Right, through the treatment for sexual problem behavior.
Right.
And so that'll be addressed
Yeah.
within that program.
Yeah.
And probably addressed more with a focus on what the behaviors of this crime.
Right. So are we good with that? Okay, so regarding Victor Rivera, 285140, move to grant parole on or after February 28, 2025. The following conditions, stipulations, halfway house placement if necessary, treatment for problem sexual behavior, no contact with minors without parole officer's permission, and no contact with victim SC. Is there a second? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Mr. Rivera, you've been voted to parole and your conditions will be explained to you prior to your release.
Okay. Thank you.
This concludes the parole hearing for Victor Rivera, 285140. Mr. Rivera, you're all set. You'll get all your paperwork next week.
Thank you. God bless.
And they granted. Who else is not surprised? What an insane course of events. He shows up to his parole hearing completely denying what he actually claims that it happened one time. He blames the victim. He does victim blaming. He says that he came out of the shower and she was just there, derobed, lying on the towel, waiting for his graces, and all he did was give in to temptation. And the parole board is like, okay, well, why? You know, they do one shot. Well, why did they say that you had a gun? Why did they say, oh, they're lying. Okay, well, I see, because you're holding the Bible, sir, that clearly you're right. We're gonna trust you. I know you couldn't afford the crucifix, Netflix, but you have the Bible. It's the next best bet. It's like this parole board, they just don't get it. They don't get it. That sometimes, you could see that it's they're trying to talk through their training. They're trying to bring up every justification for releasing him. I mean, look at the reasons that they give for releasing him. One, the truth will come out in the community. Are you really? Can you tell me one reason you think? Oh, because they have better programs in the community. Oh, okay, yeah, that's why the truth will come out. No. You have the ability to have the truth come out right here in this public meeting called a parole hearing. That's what the reason that these parole hearings are made public is that it's consensus across the United States that parole hearings be considered public meetings. And the reason that they are legislated written this way is so that the public can know whether or not people who have been found guilty by the jury of your peers, that there is a reason they are being given the privilege of getting out early. So the parole board, you cannot go and say, you know what, he impregnated her. A judge gave him a 20-year gimmick of a sentence. He has to serve 6 years, 9 months of it. He was only sentenced March 28th of 2024. This parole hearing happened late February 2025. He was just sentenced. And he shows up and he blames the victim. He lies about the course of events, and you're going to reward him so that he can do better in the community that you are supposed to protect, parole board. I was like, we don't try people here. Hey, look, what are you? No, you don't try people. A judge waved down that hammer. As crazy as the deal is that they gave him, because let's be frank, it's sick. Only has to register for 10 years. Only has to serve 7 years of a 20-year sentence, but ends up only serving 3 years for impregnating a child. You're holding the royal flush. You cannot lose this. Don't let. How could imagine his defense attorney trying to play hardball? Yeah, we're not going to take this deal. We'll take it to the jury. And then, like as a TA, you'd be like, okay. I mean, I'm only going to have one witness come to the stand. I'm going to have one exhibit. You want to bring the victim onto the stand? I mean, go ahead. I'm sure the judge is going to look kindly to that. I mean, she's pregnant. We don't know the story. Did he even have the baby? She have the baby? We don't know. That's none of our business. But that's not the point. And it's not like, there's no reasons for this, like for going out of your way to help him. What was he, a 5th or 6th felony offender? He spent his whole life in and out of jail. What Holly has here, even on his record, and in the news article, it says he had 2 victims. I don't know if that was a mistake or not, because we only see that one place, and it's not sure. But he gets count 1, sexual assault of a victim of age 13 to 15. He gets 10 years. He gets count 2, 10 years, count 3, 10. So he gets 40 years. But they run them, concurrently or whatever, consecutive. So it's 20 years, but then only has to serve 6 and only does 3. Make that make sense. But again, what's the most insane thing here is how the parole board jumps through hoops that they create for themselves to let him out. Well, they ask him, what did you learn in your short-term sex offender program, SOTP? You hear them say those, SOTP. Well, I learned that if a guy went to a club with a girl and then we're drinking and then went to a hotel to have sex. That's what good. That's our taxpayer. With hearing how much he learned while in prison at the special programs that solve all Ch0mos. Well, he's holding the Bible, so that helps him a lot. That sets him at a whole different level. But I'm sure when he goes into the community, it's all of a sudden the level of his intelligence level is going to go through the roof, and the programs they're just much better. He's going to be cured. Really, I believe the story that I heard about with the gun and the going out to whatever it was. But there you have it. This parole board, it's dangerous. This person he did not earn the right to get out. And it's in Louisiana, they always say there's 3 reasons for incarceration that they take into account. And it's retribution. And if you think what he did, dragging the victims through that 3 years was enough for retribution, no, I argue no. Then there's rehabilitation. He clearly is not rehabilitated, nor is he even accepting what he did. And then there's protecting from the community. And if there's anything that we can do, because I don't believe he can get rehabilitated, it would at least be to protect him from the community, that the victims don't need to know he's back on the streets. And the DOC in Connecticut, they, in this case like this, because sometimes they seem to get it, but in this specific case, they just don't check any of the boxes. That's madness.
How you doing today?
Please state your name and inmate number for the record.
John McCreedy, 276381.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for John McCreedy, 276381. He's serving a sentence of 15 years, executed, suspended after serving 5 years, followed by 15 years probation for illegal sexual contact victim less than 13 years old. He is to remain on the sex offender registry for 10 years. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of December 5th, 2024. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed the short track sex offender program, voices, and he works as a janitor. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low to moderate range. Mr. McCreedy, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Yes, I appreciate you seeing me today. I feel like I should, be given the chance to go home so I can reestablish myself. I have a job when I get home. I have my wife that's standing by me, my fiance. I also found a doctor where I can go, in Mansfield, Connecticut. That's I forgot the correct terminology. That's basically that can meet my needs in so many words. I just want to be able to get a chance to prove myself.
Thank you, Mr. McCreedy. Oh, is that it?
No, I appreciate you, for just seeing me today.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you,
No.
Mr. McCreedy, for your opening statement. And we've read about your background,
Yes.
what's brought you to this incarceration, what you've done since you've been in. Based upon that, and the interviews that you had with the parole officer, we have some questions for you. Then we're going to talk about your case and give you a decision. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And we're going to start. We are going to start questions today with Board Member Smith Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Creedy. So I was listening to your opening statement. It didn't give us very much insight into what you've taken away from some of the programming that you've done at the facility, or, you mentioned treatment in the community, but let's go back. Let's start at the beginning. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the charge that you're incarcerated for. So you're incarcerated for illegal sexual contact of a minor under 13 years of age. And I read that you admit to some of it.
I admit to all of it.
You admit to all of it.
Yeah, I've had time to sit there and think about everything, and I excuse my language, I feel real crappy about everything. I got daughters myself, and I'm taking accountability for everything. I've learned, I'm sorry.
That's the right start. Go ahead, keep going.
I've learned within the voices classes, and in so many words, it was my fault. I shouldn't have did what I did. Again, I'm taking full accountability for everything. I want to be able to make amends, because I know that, it's not just me that's suffering, there's everybody else around me and the victim.
I would say, you need to reverse the order of the people suffering a little bit,
I agree.
The victim first.
I agree. I'm
Yep.
just nervous right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep going here. So you take responsibility. I hear that. You did participate in treatment, which I think is important. Why do you think you engaged in this behavior with the child?
Honestly, I have no answer for it. And I really don't have no answer for it. And this is why I want to take a step forward and, get the treatment that I need, so none of this will ever happen again.
Well, our goal is that the goal for everybody is that this will never happen again. That's why we have you participating in treatment. So I was reading the sex offender treatment evaluation where you said, I didn't do it. Then in the discharge summary from treatment, you said, I didn't do it all. And today you're saying you take responsibility for everything.
Yeah, mainly because I've had a lot of time to sit back and think about everything, and it's about time I take the responsibility, for everything I've done. And again, I got daughters, and I want to, put my best foot forward. you know, showing them that I can't be accountable, you know, for what I've done, and I want them to be proud of me. You know, I want to go home and do the right thing.
And you have not yet been able to identify why you engaged in this behavior.
I'm sorry.
Am I hearing you correctly? You said when I asked you why you engaged in the behavior, you said you didn't know.
I mean, I have no excuse for it. Yeah, I chose my words wrong. I just don't. There's no excuse for anything. There's none, and I want to take full accountability for it.
All right, you keep saying that, and we give you credit because today you're before us and you're saying, yes, I did this. I sexually assaulted this child. But I need to, what I'm trying to get from you, not what I need, but what I'd like to try and get from you is you've participated in 16 weeks of treatment.
Yes.
When I read the summary and it says that at the end of treatment, you say you didn't do it all, and today you say you did. I'm wondering, you know, how much you got out of treatment if you were still in a stage of denial for your behavior. So I want to hear from you. When you finish treatment, you should be able to identify risk factors, triggers. Tell me about some of those.
From what I learned, you know, risk factors that, you know, I guess it was just me being in a situation where I shouldn't have been, where I shouldn't have put myself into. I shouldn't have touched her. I shouldn't, you know, again, me taking full responsibility for everything. I shouldn't have did it, you know, anything that I've done. I wish I could apologize to her because, you know, from what I learned in the sex class and what I learned in All Voices, you know, she was the victim, and I feel crappy for everything I did. And again, it is falling back on her, and she's gonna have trust issues all her life, and just because of me. And not only that, my daughters, you know, they're going through it as well because their fathers are in prison for this. And again, I want to be able to, you know, do the right thing when I get home. You know, go to therapy. Go, you know, to be able to, you know, be able to make something of my life.
And we want you to go in the community. We want you to attend treatment. We want you to benefit and be successful in that treatment. In the treatment program that you were in,
Yes.
They talk about cognitive distortions. Do you know what that means?
I actually been looking that word up, and it still confuses me because there's a couple of definitions of it, but it's mainly about you taking, you know, responsibility for what you've done. Am I right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and you do take responsibility. We're hearing that, but I'm trying to get to a place where you can recognize how your thinking was distorted when you committed this offense. What were you thinking that attracted you to a minor child?
And that's the whole point. I wasn't thinking at all. And now that I had the time to sit there and think about everything, it was like I shouldn't have been in the situation where I put myself into. I shouldn't have, you know, violated her trust.
All right. So would you, when we talk about thinking and what was going on at the time, did you think that she was interested in you? Did you think that she was enjoying it?
And in my mind, yes. And I was wrong. I was wrong for it all. Like I wish I could take, you know, push back to the hand of time and go back and, you know, undo it. Because again, I had plenty of sleepless nights. Think about, you know, what happened, what I shouldn't have done, and what I could have done. You know, I talk to my daughters, and I hear the hurt in their voice, and it kills me. Yeah, my kids are staying by my side and say, you know, they love me, but I still hear the hurt in their voice because of everything, and I can only imagine the hurt in his voice.
So when we talk about a relapse prevention plan, at the
Yes.
end of your treatment, you had to identify what your triggers were, what your risk factors are, and then develop a plan to be in the community and not impose harm, right?
Yes,
So what have you developed?
me and my fiance, we actually found, you know, first and foremost, she's my person I talk to about everything. She's the one that's going to be my support system. My daughters as well. And I also found like I told you before, I found a psychiatrist up in Mansfield, Connecticut. That's I think that's
That's so certified.
yes. And it's kind of far from where I'm at, but I'll make sure I'll get to it. She's in Mansfield, Connecticut, and they'll be able to take my insurance. So that's basically my plan so far. I just have to get over this first hurdle, you know, and being able to make it out into the world and be able to prove myself not only to myself, but to my fiance and my kids, because they're the ones that mean the most to me.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, I want to follow up with something. So I read in the documents that you identified a trigger as being around young children.
Yes.
Do you recognize that as a trigger for yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And what is your plan
To be able
for managing that trigger in the community?
to keep my head at work, and you know, if something that was to arrive, to be able to have, you know, the support system of people that I can talk to.
And what, you know, we talk about people, places, and things with substance abuse, right? Not putting yourself in places where you will be triggered. So how
Right.
do you plan to manage that?
Make better decisions and not put myself in a situation where I'm gonna have to be like that, or going to, you know, amusement parks or something like that, you know.
So you've been on probation before. This is not your first arrest.
Yes, I had just finished probation before before this happened. That I actually discharged off of it.
When did you discharge off probation? I have that probation. Well, it was continued in 2019 following a violation.
Yeah, I finished in 21. So I came home 2016 and I finished in 21. Then I got let go early.
And then you have an interfering and a breach of peace that you had conditional discharges for in 2022.
Yes.
Were those domestic in nature, the breach of peace? Is that a
No.
domestic case? No.
No.
Because you have some struggles on community supervision, right?
And
Why do you think you have so much trouble?
my neighbor is not making excuses, but my neighbor that where I was staying at, they were actually just, in some words, picking, you know, and they were picking fights on the people where I was staying with, and I was basically trying to do the right thing and staying by them, and it just kind of blew over one day.
So when the offense actually occurred, you were still on probation, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you talk to your probation officer, tell them that you were struggling in the community?
Yes.
You talked to the probation officer?
When I actually went to community health center in Middletown. I asked for help, and I ended up getting psychiatric help at community health center. I went there for almost 3 years. Probation, they commended me for doing so, for asking for help, because they said that not many people would ask for help. it took me a long time to, to be able to get myself established. And right before all this happened, I ended up getting a job where I was on my supervisor at Ch0m0 Industries. I was actually making pretty good money, and again, it took me a while. So a lot of people wouldn't rent me apartments. I couldn't, a lot of people wouldn't hire me. And I ended up getting a real good job, and it was through a friend that I was doing side work from.
And your release plan is to go to a halfway house?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I finished the halfway house in 2004 or 2005. I was in Isaiah House in Bridgeport. I ended up discharging out of there.
So you find that that's a place where you think you'll do well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you want to go back to try and get on a fishing boat or some other job?
Yes. I was working for Westport Fishing out of Bridgeport. I was inshore over there, and when I went offshore, I was out of Freeport, Long Island, and we were gone for 4 or 5 days at a time working on the lobster boat. But we were working 18-hour shifts, and it was tiring, but it was fun work because I was seeing new things every day. I mean, not a lot of people. I'm sorry, not a lot of people could do that type of work, and it was pretty strenuous, but I did it, and I ended up moving up north, and I got a job working at Delmar Products. I ended up hurting myself. It was kind of ironic because I would have thought I would hurt myself on a boat because it was a lot more strenuous. And I got 3 tendons torn on my right rotator cuff.
Yeah, I did read that you had some injuries from a work accident.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. McCreedy, I appreciate you answering my questions. I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Board member staff exception?
No, my big question was around triggers and risks, and I think panel member Mary Smith did a great job with getting to the root of those.
Yep.
So Mr. McCreedy, he does have a fairly significant criminal history.
Mhm.
With recent convictions in 2022 for breach of peace and engineering. He was on probation when the offenses were committed, although not convicted while he was on probation. I appreciate that Mr. McCreedy sought treatment in the community on his own. I appreciate that he's already investigated treatment in the community, whether he goes there or goes where parole or probation will require him.
Yeah.
He will have treatment. He has no disciplinary reports throughout this term of incarceration. His 10 years on the sex offender registry. So here's what I'm struggling with. I think that Mr. McCreedy, and I think he participated in the Voices program. We didn't really talk very much about that, but I got a sense from my questioning. I could hear some of the Voices program coming through. He did successfully complete the short-term sex offender treatment program. I'm a little gray in trying to figure out how much Mr. McCreedy benefited from that program. We have a lot of, there's this path of coming to full admission, right? The evaluation he says, I didn't do it. He goes through treatment and admits to partially. And then he's before the board today where he says he takes full responsibility for this young person.
With that, aren't we dealing with just the stages of acceptance of,
Yes, yeah, that's you are correct in that. But I'm having a little bit of a hard time determining what Mr. Creedy got out of the treatment program. and maybe as the questioner, I was, taking notes and focusing on my questions and need to hear my colleagues heard more than what I think I've heard.
I think the acknowledgement is there. And even in the, one of the treatment synopsises, he acknowledged the feelings at the time of excitement, then shame. And to me, that means that he's recognizing that the behavior is wrong and that it needs to be dealt with. I did hear offender change. I mean, obviously, I agree with you on, the backstory, that there's a lot going on here as well. But I will give him credit for being thoughtful in terms of thinking, and setting things up to be successful if he were to be released.
And in his eval, they gave him, did he appear to understand some of the protective factors he'll need to continue to decrease likelihood of reoffense?
Yeah.
So it's like he's on that way. Everything that's said here regarding this, that he participated in the group, and that they said in the eval that on static 99 he shows as a low risk to recidivate, in a sexual offense, and that's what we're dealing with here today, right?
It is. I mean, I think we also have to consider that he does have a criminal history. It's a very significant criminal history.
Right.
And that he's on probation for at the time this offense was occurring.
What would you have him do something additional?
Well, that is my flip side. Right? I mean, prison is punishment too.
Yeah.
Right? It's a
Yeah.
punishment. It's consequences.
Yeah.
For the offenses. And then the goal is that individuals will do programs to give them that start to being successful in the community. So he's done it. We know that Mr. McCreedy will be required to do treatment in the community. So, and he's done voices. So in terms of what else he could possibly be doing in the community, there were some other programs not in the community while he's incarcerated. There was, I see People Empowering People was added to his OAP.
I don't know that, to me, I don't know that that's a program that gets to the heart of the risk. I'm looking at 15 years of probation, 10 years on the registry. That's an awful lot of supervision in terms of, at the same time, he's going to be engaging in counseling in order to continue the path of why he offended and obviously to ensure that he doesn't offend in the future. My comfort level was centered around those factors.
I honestly, I came into today's hearing after reviewing all the documents, with a question mark. I needed to hear Mr. McCreedy a little bit further and answer my questions. And I think you, my colleagues are correct. He did answer and dig to try and get to the heart of it.
Yeah, it got better. I mean, I think that there might be some nervousness here, but I think as you continued your sequence of questions, I think my confidence level was increasing.
We're talking about 2 years of parole supervision, basically. It's 2 years out. And there's.
Does it? He was working. Did there's. Yeah. I'm. I was on the fence, but I would be comfortable with granting discretionary parole today, knowing that we'll have conditions in place
Yeah. I mean,
to either help him along
right,
or to provide that in-depth or that higher level of community supervision that this case will warrant.
right. Probably rates out, low or low moderate, and the sex offense is moderate, but not high or very high in in the other instruments.
Moderate, high, moderate, and low moderate on the static 99.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the evaluation that was done by Brooklyn, he rates out low.
Appreciate the discussion.
So what would we have them do?
Well, halfway house,
Yep,
community-based treatment for problem sexual behavior, no contact with minors.
Yep.
No contact with ME,
yep,
mental health too, but as he said, he has insurance, can address that on his own. And then I think for risk, we've covered the necessary programming.
the.
Mhm.
All right, so regarding John McCreedy, 276-381, I move to grant parole on or after February 28, 2025. With the following conditions: halfway house placement if necessary, community-based treatment for problem sexual behavior, no contact with minors without parole officer's permission, and no contact with victim ME. Is there a second?
Second,
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Mr. McCready, you've been voted to parole, and you know what you need to do. You need to get out there and you need to do it. Okay?
Yes, I appreciate
Right.
you so much, all three of you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, concluded the hearing. Did you have something else that you wanted to add, Mr. McCready?
I really do appreciate all three of you and, for giving me a chance. I know I can achieve everything that, you put forward of me. I know I could finish on parole and probation with ease. I'm not a problem person. I just want to be able to get home, get myself established, get the help that I need. And with you, granting me this today, I know I can achieve it. And I appreciate you.
well, Mr.
Thank you.
McCready, the opportunity to get help with services will be available to you. So you need to advocate for yourself.
I appreciate it. And I will.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you so much.
This concludes the parole hearing for John McCready, 276-381. You're all set, Mr. McCready. You'll get all your paperwork next week.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You have a blessed day.
And there you have it again. And both these hearings happened on the same docket on the same day. And I just, I had to mold them together. Thank you, Holly, for pointing them out on the spreadsheet. Because, for those of you who are wondering, maybe the other guy wasn't all there, or maybe, this was just a once in a life. No, twice in one. Here he shows up. We know that he's been denying it throughout the entire process. He only at his parole hearing shows up to say that he's responsible because he knows he'll get paroled, and they just take it hook, line, and sinker. They don't even, it's even how sick is this? And we don't have information on this case. They wanted to sweep it under the rug, as they do, the DAs. In this case, it was just a young child. We don't know how old, under the age of 12, so they gave him a 5-year maximum sentence. He's sentenced 12/19/2023. This hearing happens late February 2025, right? And they come up with excuses as to why. It's like, what are your risk factors? I shouldn't put myself in that situation. Then you find out that his fiance is sticking through with him. He's talking about having daughters. I mean, the entire thing is ringing alarm bells. And then he still somehow shows up as a low to moderate risk. He's not a completely low risk. So there, the parole board's just like, you know, it's a moderate, it's a moderate risk that he'll offend against another child, but we'll take that chance. Why not? It's like psychotic stuff. You know, he has this all, there's just, again, there's nothing, there's no info on this case. But he has in his record breach of peace. You know, I wonder if this is even the same woman who's his fiance that he's doing all this stuff against. Is it? Or maybe that's not. I don't know. But why would you grant? I mean, you're literally releasing a man who likes children. I mean, it's that clear. Like they keep talking about, like, why did you do it? You know, it's like we all know why. He likes little ones. He put himself in situations to have access to those little ones, and he got caught. And then what does the system do when he gets caught? They give him a little slap on the wrist. They say you only have to register for 10 years, and let's just release you early because why not? There's no one earning it. There's nothing there. They do not care about protecting our society. They have an agenda. The agenda is data. They want to be able to say that people come in their prisons, get rehabilitated, and leave. That is my opinion. That is their agenda. And the agenda is not forefront, you know, in their mission statement to protect society, for retribution. That for sure is not there. And rehabilitation is BS. We clearly saw in these cases, there's not even the semblance of fake rehabilitation. I imagine someone like this, when they get out, the first thing they'll do again is say, I'm completely innocent. And that could be why his fiance is staying with him. He's still saying he's innocent, and she's choosing to believe it. And we see this all the time. Those who commit these crimes, they surround themselves by enablers that empower them to do it. And then the danger there that everybody could see but the parole board is that what would make you think that these people won't make sure that he's babysitting children because he's such a great guy, you know? Putting him, hey, you know, yeah, he's not allowed to be around, but the odds of getting caught, the odds of the probation officer walking in, they take these chances, and then if they're caught, they get a small reprimand. We've seen it. You don't go back to prison for the full sentence. That never happens. Thank you, Holly, for pulling this together. And with that, I'll let you go.
You said you were coming out of the bathroom. She was naked. Her account is that you brought her 3 different times in a car where the offenses took place.
Yes,
Where's the truth in this discussion?
it happened in my house. When I went to the bathroom and I came out, she was naked on the blanket.
So why would she make up an elaborate story about being in your car and going to the beach in Stratford twice and Field Park in Bridgeport once?
It was more story about that she lies a lot of stories that I threatened to kill them, that I had a gun, and it was a lot of stories that I